Hello learners, welcome to the MOOC course on Digital Humanities Theory and Practice. Now we have reached the fifth and the final topic in this unit, that is citation tools and references. Everything we have covered so far, advanced searching, academic databases, digital scholarship and open access, leads to one fundamental responsibility, that is accurately acknowledging the sources you find and use. Today's lecture will give you both the conceptual understanding of why citation matters and the practical skills to do it correctly across print and digital sources. So here is the roadmap. We'll move from the fundamental questions of what referencing is and why it matters, through plagiarism and how to avoid it, into the mechanics of in-text citation and the reference lists. We'll look at the main referencing styles and then focus on the specific challenges of citing online and digital sources. We'll close with reference management software and best practice tailored to get digital humanities. Now let's start at the beginning. Referencing is not just the bureaucratic formality you do at the end of writing. It's a core part of academic communication. When you cite a source, you are doing several things simultaneously. You're acknowledging the intellectual contribution of the scholars whose work you are building on. You are giving the reader a map to follow if they want to read the original, and you're demonstrating that argument is grounded in real evidence rather than the personal opinion, right? So as we discussed, it is simply a practice of providing details, right, and precise information about all the sources that are consulted and cited in your work, so that the reader can locate the original, right? So referencing is something which is very important. I mean, if we don't go by referencing, or if we don't do this, then obviously what we are going to do is very unethical practice, which is also known as academic theft, right? So that's why referencing becomes most important task, or one of the most important tasks, while writing a research paper. Referencing must be included both within the text as in-text citation. So if you're going to do within the text, that is known as in-text citation, and at the end of the work as a reference list or bibliography. Now the thing is, bibliography and reference list are somewhat a bit different from each other. Reference list is simply what you have consulted so far and used in your text, right? Or while writing a research paper or any article or any thesis or dissertation or project, anything that you have consulted and used in your text, for that we go for referencing. And sometimes what happens, we read certain text, we consult them, but we don't use them, right? So they are used just for the sake of consultation, just for the sake of reading. And for example, I'm writing a research paper where I consulted 15 texts. Out of those 15, I found 5 of my use. So what I'll do is I'll take these 5 into my reference, because I have used them, I've consulted them, I've used them. Then rest of the 10 texts I did not use in my research paper, or writing my research paper. So what I'll do is I'll put them in bibliography only. All right. So peers and shields makes an important distinction that students often miss. As we discussed, a reference list and a bibliography are not the same thing. Like what I said, a reference list includes only the sources you have actually cited in your text. But a bibliography is broader. It includes everything you have read, consulted, even if you did not quote anything or cite anything directly, that will fall under the category of your bibliography, right? So check which one of your institution or supervisor requires. Now, what is plagiarism and how to avoid it? Plagiarism comes in many forms, the one that we discussed in the previous slide. Plagiarism comes in many forms, and some of them are less obvious than the student expect. The most obvious form, copying and pasting text without quotation marks or a citation, is easy to understand and avoid. But changing only a few words in a sentence while keeping the original structure is also plagiarism, even if you include a citation after words. Right? So, again, I repeat, this is something which is important. Copying and pasting text without quotation mark or a citation is easy to understand and avoid. We can simply do that, right? But changing only a few words in a sentence while keeping the original structure is also a plagiarism, even if you have included that in your citation list, right? So the structure is also someone's intellectual work. So if someone is designing a whole structure, someone is giving a text a complete structure, so that is also the work of that particular person. So that's the work of that author. So we cannot simply take that structure. The safest habit, and one that Peirce and Shields strongly recommend, is to record your reference information at the very moment you take a note from a source, not after you finish the research. So which they say it's always better to you know to acknowledge or to cite or to record whenever you are writing at the moment itself, instead of waiting for the last and believing that okay, once I'm done I'll be writing this, I'll be preparing the whole reference list. No, it's always better, or which is what Peirce and Shields recommend, it's always better you write your references or write your or note down your references at the same time while you are writing. By the time you sit down to write, you may not remember which idea came from which source, and that exactly when mistakes happen, right? So it's always difficult to figure out, to identify, to recall that what idea comes from what author, which idea or which work that I have taken this from. So it's always better to write at the moment when you are writing. One more thing, common knowledge is genuinely an exception to referencing requirement, but the bar of common knowledge is higher than the student often assume, especially when you've just started studying in a new field. When in doubt, it's always better to cite. Don't leave it to someone's common knowledge. Now, in-text citation and the reference list. The in-text citation is the brief signal you place inside your writing and tell the reader this idea or quotation came from somewhere specific, and you can find the full details at the end of the document. The Harvard author date system is one of the most widely used across humanities and social sciences, and it's what Peirce and Shields use as their primary example. It works by giving the author's surname and the year of publication in the body of your text, with the page number added when you're quoting directly. One thing students find confusing is how to handle multiple authors or unknown authors. Remember, more than three authors mean you only name the first one and add et al. That's the Latin for and others. And if you genuinely cannot find an author's name, you cite by document title instead. Every citation you place inside your text must have a corresponding full entry in the reference list at the end. And that's the chain of the information that makes verification possible. Now, the slides cover one of the most practically important skill in the academic writing. A very common misconception is that paraphrasing means replacing a word in a sentence with synonym while keeping everything else the same. So we generally believe paraphrase is writing in your own words, and especially replace the words with their synonyms and keeping everything else, which is of course the structure, and there are other dynamics of writing, keeping them same, keeping them intact. You just simply use the synonyms and change the words. Does not mean that you have simply or completely paraphrased. That's not paraphrasing. It is, as we have just discussed, that plagiarism. True paraphrasing means restating the idea in genuinely different language and the sentence structure, while still giving credits to the original author. The skill here is demonstrating that you actually understand what you read, not just that you cannot find, or not just that you can find substitute words in the thesaurus. On the other end of the spectrum, over relying on direct quotation is also problematic. It's a piece writing full of block quotations actually signals to the reader that you may not have done much of your own thinking. The rule of thumb is to quote directly only when the exact wording of the original matters, right? A distinctive definition, a technical term, a significant phrase, and to paraphrase or summarize everything else. Secondary referencing should be used sparingly and only when when the original source is inaccessible to you. Now, these are some of the major referencing styles that are Harvard, APA, the American Psychological Association, MLA, Modern Language Association, MHRA, Modern Humanities Research Association. So generally, I mean, of course, besides the four of them, there are a lot of referencing styles, but we could, because of the paucity of time, we could take only three or four just for the sake of, as an example, in fact. So one of the most common questions student ask is which referencing style should I use? The honest answer is whichever one your department, supervisor, or the publisher requires. There is no universally superior style. Each one was designed for a particular academic community with particular conventions. What matters more than which style you choose is using it consistently throughout your work. Mixing styles in a single piece of writing is never acceptable. Yes, as it's a tendency among the students. What they generally do is they simply mix the style with each other. Using some of the references are there in the APA, some of them will be in MLA, and sometimes in-text citation is in MLA, and some of the in-text citation are in APA. Or sometimes what happens is they simply, I mean, just because the numericals or the numerical words like the year of publication, that in English letter that sounds very unique. So they write the year of publication as per one referencing style, but the name of the journal, the capitalization of each word, they mix up all these things. So what is generally recommended, or should be the case, is that whenever you are giving a reference, or whenever you are preparing a referencing style, or using any referencing style, even in in-text citation, you must follow one. Do not mix up two or three referencing style in within one dissertation project or the research paper. So, as digital humanities scholar, you are likely to encounter more than one style across your career. Since the field sits at an intersection of computing humanities, library sciences, and the social science, and those communities have different norms. Like for example, APA is common in social sciences and interdisciplinary context. MLA and MHRA are widely used or traditionally used in humanities. Howard is general purpose and very widely understood. For this course, the specific style required will be what your institution specifies, but your ability to work in any of those styles is a transferable scholarly skill. Now, citing online sources, key challenges. Now, citing online sources introduces the problems that simply don't exist with print. The most important one is impermanence. A URL you include in a citation today might lead nowhere in 6 months because the author moved the page. The website was redesigned, right? The content was deleted, right? Dukajev made a point worth memorizing. A URL on its own is not a citation. It doesn't tell your reader who wrote the document, when it was written, or in what institutional context it appeared. You still need all the standard citation elements like author, title, date, cite, and you only add the URL as a supplementary location information. So the idea is, besides writing the URL only, one must write each and everything: the author, the publishing date, the publishing house, the title, and each and everything. And then you are supposed to write your URL, which is simply kind as a supplementary locating information. There is also an important practical rule. If an online document has a print version, cite the print version. Most academic journals, for example, are available online, but you should still cite them as journal articles with volume, issues, and page number, and not simply as URLs. The exception is a document that only exists online, like a web page or a bound digital source, from which genuinely having no print counterpart to cite. Now, the citation elements for digital and web sources. Now, let's look at the specific building block of an online citation. Author's identification is often the trickiest part. If a name authored isn't on the document you are looking at, check the site's homepage before concluding there is no author. Often the organization that runs the site is effectively the author himself or herself, and you can list it such or as such. For the data field, Ducater makes a useful three-way distinction, and I want you to remember the date first written, the date last updated, and the date of access, right? So these all are different things, and which one matters depends on the nature of the document that you are using for. A static archived document only needs its publication date. A regularly updated document like a news site or a government statistics page needs the last updated date so as your reader knows which version you consulted. You should only include a date of access for undated document or one that changing with the providing their own update, right? So sometimes DOI now become the standard for the academic journal articles, and and are far more reliable than URLs for long-term citation, since they are permanent identifiers managed by a registered agency rather than just an address on the particular server. Now, reference management software has genuinely changed how academic research works. It is used to be that managing hundreds of sources for a thesis or research project was a time-consuming manual process. Keeping spreadsheets or index card, formatting every reference by hand according to the correct style. Tools like Zotero, Mendeley, and ReferenceWorks have largely eliminated that burden. You install a browser extension, and when you are on a library database, a journal article, or even just a web page, a single capture or a single click or a capture all the citation details and saves them to your library. When you're ready to write, you insert citation into your word processor, and software automatically formats both the index citation and reference list in whichever style you have selected. There is particularly nice historical connection for digital humanities students and media at George Mason University, which is one of the most founding institutions of digital humanities as a field. So the most widely used free citation tool in academia literally came out of digital humanities. One crucial cautions Ducater makes, and I want you to take it seriously, these tools still have difficulty with non-standard or purely digital sources. Always verify the auto-generated citation against the style guide rather than assuming the software has got it right. Now, citation tools and some of the best practices for digital humanities. Let's bring all this together with a set of practical rules for your own work. First, evaluate before you cite. Just finding a source in a Google search does not make you a citable. The evaluation crisis Ducati is outlining authority, accuracy, and objectivity currency. Apply just as much as online as they do to print. Second, archive what you cite. Every web page or digital resources you plan to cite should be saved at the point of use. Because if you come back to a URL 3 months later, the page is gone. You are in trouble. Zotero makes this straightforward. Third, prefer DOI over URLs. Uh, when you have a choice, they are simply more reliable for a long-term citation ability. Fourth, always be specific about what version of sources you use, especially in digital humanities where you might be working with a preprint, a corrected postprint, or can all differ meaningfully from each other. And finally, consistency in a referencing style is not optional. Mixing citation formats with single piece work signal carelessness to the academic world. Now, with this, we come to an conclusion of this lecture, which of course brings us to the end of this subunit and to the close of the entire unit on research, research skills. Look back over the key takeaway on this slide. They pull together everything from the fundamental of referencing and plagiarism through citation styles and online source challenges and to the reference management tools that will support your research practice going forward. Two things I'd like you to carry with you first. Referencing is not a formality you do after the real work is done. It's a part of intellectual property, it is a part of intellectual work, a commitment to honesty, accuracy, and scholarly accountability. Two things I'd like you to carry with you first. Referencing is not a formality you do after the real work is done. That's it. The second is, it's a part of the intellectual work itself, a commitment to honesty, accuracy, and a scholarly accountability. The second one is, the digital environment introduces the specific challenges around the instability, versioning, and the source authority that print citation never had to deal with, and handling those challenges carefully is what distinguishes serial digital humanities from careless web browsing. This completes our unit on internet research skill. You now have the tools to search effectively, navigate databases, engage them with digital scholarship, access open resources, and cite everything you find, and precision and integrity. With this, we come to an end of this week 3. I shall see you with another lecture in another week. Till then, thank you so much. Goodbye.